I always knew my younger brother, Jake, was the favorite. Maybe it wasn't obvious to everyone else, but to me, it was as clear as day. Growing up, I could feel it in the way my parents spoke to him, softer, gentler, always with a tinge of pride in their voices. With me, it was different. Their expectations were higher, their patience thinner, and their praise rare, if not non-existent. It wasn't like I hated Jake. He was my little brother, and despite everything, I cared about him. But I couldn't ignore how unfair it felt. I remember one Christmas when I was 10, and he was 6. We both had given our wish lists to our parents weeks before. I had asked for a new bike, nothing fancy, just something I could ride to my friend's house instead of walking. Jake had asked for a video game console. On Christmas morning, we raced downstairs to find presents under the tree. Jake's eyes lit up when he unwrapped the exact gaming console he had asked for. My heart pounded as I reached for my biggest gift, hoping it was the bike. But when I tore off the wrapping paper, all I found was a stack of books and some new clothes. "Books will help you in school," my mom had said with a smile. "We thought this would be better for you." I forced a smile, swallowing the lump in my throat. Better for me? What about what I wanted? I glanced at Jake, who was already plugging in his new console, laughing as Dad helped him set it up. That was the first time I realized that in their eyes, Jake deserved joy, while I deserved responsibility. As we grew older, the pattern only became more obvious. If Jake forgot to do his chores, it was, "He's just a kid." If I forgot, "You need to be more responsible." If Jake got a B on a test, it was, "Great job, buddy." If I got the same grade, it was, "You can do better." By the time I reached high school, the resentment had settled in, like a quiet storm waiting to break. I worked twice as hard, hoping they'd finally see me the way they saw him. Straight A's, extracurricular activities, part-time jobs, I did everything right, but no matter what, it never seemed to be enough. Then came the night that solidified everything for me. Senior year, I had been working on an important school project, a presentation that would count for nearly half my grade. I spent weeks perfecting it, staying up late, rehearsing in front of the mirror. The night before my presentation, I asked my parents if they could come watch. "It's really important to me," I said, trying to hide how much their presence would mean. My dad sighed. "Oh, that's tomorrow?" My mom frowned. "Jake has a basketball game that night. We promised we'd be there." My chest tightened. "You can't come to both?" Dad shook his head. His team made it to the finals. "This is a big deal." A big deal, as if what I had worked for wasn't. I nodded slowly, pressing my lips together to keep from saying something I'd regret. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was used to it by now. But as I walked back to my room that night, I knew the truth. No matter what I did, no matter how hard I tried, I would always come second. And for the first time, I started to wonder, was there even a point in trying anymore? By the time I left for college, I had already accepted the reality. Jake would always be the favorite. But even though I told myself I was over it, the resentment never really went away. It lingered, growing heavier each time my parents reminded me, intentionally or not, that I would always come second. College was supposed to be my fresh start. A chance to prove that I was more than just the responsible older sibling. I worked hard, balancing my classes, a part-time job, and extracurriculars. I was determined to succeed on my own terms. If my parents weren't going to acknowledge my efforts, then fine. I'd prove to myself that I was enough. At first, things seemed better. I didn't have to come home to see Jake getting all the attention. I could just focus on myself. But every phone call, every holiday visit, pulled me back into the same cycle. One weekend, I called home, excited to share the news that I had made the dean's list. It was a huge achievement, something I had worked tirelessly for. I dialed the number, hoping for at least a small moment of recognition. My mom answered, "Hey, sweetie, how's school?" "Good. Actually, I have some great news. I made the dean's list this semester." There was a pause, followed by a distracted, "Oh, that's nice, honey." Nice. That was it? I swallowed the disappointment. "Yeah, it's a big deal. Only a small percentage of students make it." Before she could respond, I heard Jake's voice in the background. "Mom, I need help with my scholarship essay." "Oh, hold on, honey," my mom said quickly. "Jake's applying for a big scholarship. He really needs to get this right." I clenched my jaw. "Right. Well, I just wanted to share the news. I'll talk to you later. Okay, sweetie. Love you. I hung up, staring at my phone. Love you. Did she? Because at that moment, it sure didn't feel like it. It didn't matter what I achieved. There was always something more important happening in Jake's life. The next time I visited home, things got worse. It was Thanksgiving break, and I had barely stepped through the front door before my mom started gushing about Jake. He's been working so hard, she said as she passed me a plate of food. And you should see his latest game. He's really becoming a star player. That's great, I said, forcing a smile. I actually just... And he's applying to some really amazing colleges, she continued. We're so proud of him. I gritted my teeth. That's awesome, Mom, but I was trying to say... Oh, did I tell you? He's getting an award for leadership at school. Isn't that wonderful? I put my fork down, my appetite vanishing. Mom, do you even care about what I'm doing? She blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? I exhaled sharply. I mean, I made the dean's list. I've been working non-stop to keep up my grades in my job. And every time I try to talk about it, you brush it off. My dad, who had been silent until now, looked up from his plate. We're proud of you, too, he said. Simply. Really? I scoffed. Because it sure doesn't feel like it. There was a tense silence. My mom frowned. Sweetheart, it's not that we don't care. It's just, Jake needs more support right now. I stared at her in disbelief. He always needs more support. And what about me? Have you ever considered that I needed support too? My mom sighed. You've always been independent, honey. You never needed us the way Jake does. I felt my stomach drop. So that was it? Because I was the responsible one, I wasn't allowed to need them? I pushed my chair back, standing up. I need some air. I walked outside, the cold November air biting at my skin. My chest felt tight, my hands trembling. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving. This was about years of being overlooked, of trying so hard just to be seen. And no matter what I did, it was never enough. I sat outside on the front steps, the cold seeping through my jeans as I stared at the empty street. The muffled sounds of laughter and clinking dishes drifted from inside, but I couldn't bring myself to go back in. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving. It was about years of feeling invisible, of doing everything right only to be met with indifference. I pulled out my phone and scrolled aimlessly, my mind racing. Then, without thinking, I opened my messages and typed out a text to my best friend, Nate. Me. Hey, you busy? A few seconds later, the typing bubbles appeared. Nate. Never too busy for you. What's up? I hesitated before typing, just the usual. Jake's the star of the show. Again. Nate. Let me guess. They ignored another major achievement of yours? I let out a short, bitter laugh. He knew me too well. Bingo. Nate. Dude. When are you gonna stop? Trying to get their approval? I frowned, my fingers hovering over the screen. Me? What's that supposed to mean? Nate. I mean, you're killing yourself trying to impress them. And for what? So they can brush you aside again? You don't need their validation, man. You've accomplished so much on your own. I stared at his words, a strange mix of anger and realization bubbling up inside me. Was that what I had been doing all these years? Just chasing their approval, hoping that one day they'd finally see me? My chest tightened as the memories flooded back. Every time I had swallowed my disappointment, every time I had told myself, maybe next time they'll care. But next time never came. The screen lit up again. Nate, you've been proving yourself to the wrong people. Maybe it's time to stop trying. I swallowed hard, my mind spinning. Could I really do that? Could I just stop caring? The thought was terrifying, but for the first time, it also felt freeing. I took a deep breath and typed back. Me. I think you might be right. I locked my phone and stared up at the night sky, my breath coming out in clouds. I had spent my whole life trying to earn something that was never going to be given. Maybe it was time to let go. A few days later, I found myself standing in my parents' living room again, but this time, something felt different. I wasn't here to play along anymore. I wasn't here to smile through the neglect or pretend that I was okay with being overlooked. I had spent the past few nights thinking about what Nate said. About how I had been chasing validation from people who would never give it to me. It hurt to admit, but he was right. Now, I was done. Jake was sitting on the couch, scrolling through his phone, while my parents were in the kitchen preparing dinner. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Mom, Dad," I said, my voice steady but firm. They both turned to look at me. My mom wiped her hands on a dish towel, her expression mildly curious. My dad simply raised an eyebrow. "I need to talk to you," I continued. "All of you." Jake looked up from his phone, sensing the seriousness in my tone. My parents exchanged a glance before nodding. "All right," my dad said, leaning against the counter. "What's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "I've spent my whole life trying to make you proud. I worked hard in school, got a great job, stayed out of trouble. I did everything you asked and more. And yet, no matter what I do, it's never enough." My mom frowned. "Honey, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about how I've always been second to Jake," I said, my voice sharper now. "How no matter what I accomplish, it's always ignored while Jake gets all the praise. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve recognition, but I deserve it too." Jake shifted uncomfortably, but my parents remained silent. "I used to think that if I just worked a little harder, if I achieved one more thing, you'd finally see me. But I realize now that's never going to happen." I exhaled, my hands clenched into fists. "And I can't keep doing this. I can't keep chasing after something you're never going to give me." My dad sighed, rubbing his temple. "Look, we never meant to make you feel that way. But you did," I interrupted. "And whether you meant to or not, it doesn't change the fact that I've spent my whole life feeling like I don't matter to my own family." A heavy silence filled the room. My mom's face softened. "We love you, sweetheart. We always have." I shook my head. "Then why do I feel like I have to fight just to be noticed?" She opened her mouth but didn't say anything. My dad looked away. Even Jake, who usually had something to say, stayed silent. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their approval. I wasn't hoping for some magical moment where they'd suddenly realize how much they had hurt me. I had said my piece. That was enough. I took a deep breath and straightened my shoulders. "I'm done trying," I said quietly. "I'm done chasing after something that's never going to come. I just wanted you to know that." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving them to sit with the weight of my words. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. I walked out of my parents' house that night with a strange sense of clarity. The weight I had carried for so long, the endless chase for their approval, the need to measure up to an impossible standard, had started to lift. For years, I had believed that if I just worked harder, if I achieved more, my parents would finally see me the way they saw Jake. But standing there in that room, seeing their silence, their hesitation, I realized the truth. It was never about what I did. It was about them. I couldn't change the way they saw me, but I could change the way I saw myself. That night, I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone. Usually, after family gatherings, I'd scroll through old texts, looking for something, anything, that might suggest my parents were proud of me. I'd reread their brief, "good job" messages after a promotion or their short, polite responses to my updates about work. But this time, I didn't. Instead, I did something I had never done before. I put my phone down. I stopped waiting for a message that would never come. And I started focusing on the people who had always been there for me. Over the next few weeks, I made an effort to connect with friends, colleagues, and even mentors who had supported me through the years. I spent more time with Nate, who reminded me that I was worth more than my parents' approval. I focused on my own happiness, things I had neglected because I had been too caught up in trying to impress a family that refused to see me. One afternoon, as I was leaving work, I got a call. It was from my mom. I hesitated before answering. "Hey, Mom." She was quiet for a moment. Then, in a softer tone than I was used to hearing, she said, "We've been thinking about what you said." I didn't respond. I wasn't sure what to expect. "We never realized how much we were hurting you," she admitted. "I guess, we just thought you didn't need as much attention because you were always so strong. So independent." I closed my eyes, taking in her words. For the first time, she wasn't making excuses. She wasn't dismissing my feelings. "I don't know if we can change overnight," she continued. "But I want to try. If you'll let us." A part of me had dreamed of this moment for years. But now that it was here, I realized something important. I didn't need it to feel whole. I had already started finding my own worth, outside of them, outside of their validation. But maybe, just maybe, there was still room for healing. "I'd like that," I said softly. And for the first time, I felt like we were finally speaking the same language. not as a forgotten son, but as family. Have you ever felt like you were constantly living in someone else's shadow? Like no matter how hard you tried, you were never truly seen for who you are? If so, you're not alone. Family dynamics can be complicated, and sometimes, no matter how much we give, we don't get the recognition we deserve. But at the end of the day, our worth isn't defined by how others see us. It's defined by how we see ourselves. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you ever experienced favoritism in your family? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'd love to connect with you. If you found this video relatable or helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support means the world, and it helps bring more real, meaningful stories to people who need them. Thank you for watching, and remember, you are enough, just as you are. See you in the next video.